There's a version of this drink almost every man my age has heard about. Grate some ginger, drop it in hot water, wait for a miracle. I tried it that way for months. Nothing changed. And it wasn't until I nearly threw the whole habit out that I found the piece I'd been leaving out the entire time, sitting right there in my fruit bowl. I'm 83. Most mornings I'm up before the sun, and I still drive myself to the hardware store, still carry my own groceries up the stairs, still plan trips with my wife without checking first whether my legs will cooperate. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you because 5 years ago, I wasn't sure I'd be able to say any of it. Here's the part nobody tells you. It's not the ginger doing the heavy lifting in that cup. It's what you put in with it. For years, I blamed my cold hands, my heavy legs by 3 in the afternoon, that dull gray feeling in my face, on getting older. Just circulation slowing down, I figured. Everybody's does. My own father sat in the same chair by the window every winter afternoon of his 60s, hands tucked under a blanket, and I thought that was just what happened to a man's body eventually. I didn't question it. I just assumed I'd get my turn in that chair. I'm 83 now, and this past winter I split my own firewood, twice, without needing to sit down halfway through. My hands stay warm enough that I don't need gloves to load the truck most mornings. That's not me showing off. That's just what my mornings look like now, alongside my doctor's care, and it's different enough from 10 years ago that my own wife noticed before I said a word about it. So if it's not just age, what is it? That's the question that sent me looking, and the answer lives in a part of your body you never think about, the lining of your blood vessels. That lining has a name, the endothelium, and it does something remarkable when it's healthy. It flexes. It widens when your body needs more blood moving through and narrows back down when it doesn't. Think of a garden hose that can loosen and tighten itself depending on how much water you need. When that lining is working well, blood moves where it needs to go, to your hands, your feet, your face, and yes, the parts of you that depend on strong circulation to function the way they used to. When that lining stiffens, everything downstream pays for it. Cold hands, heavy legs, a face that looks a little grayer in the mirror than you remember. And for a lot of men, a bedroom that's gone quiet not because the desire left, but because the blood flow that used to show up reliably just doesn't show up the way it used to. Nobody sits you down and explains this. Your doctor's got 15 minutes in a full waiting room, and why are my hands always cold doesn't usually make the cut. So most of us just accept the slow fade and call it age. It isn't age. It's a lining in your blood vessels that either gets support or doesn't. That's the piece I didn't understand back when I was just grating ginger into hot water and hoping. Ginger has a real, well-documented reputation for calming inflammation in the body, and inflammation is one of the things that wears down that vessel lining over time, so there's a real reason it belongs in the cup. But inflammation is only half the story. The other half is what actually helps that lining flex and respond, and that's where I was missing something.
Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below.
I found it almost by accident. I'd started squeezing lemon into my water out of habit. My wife's doing. She says lemon water settles her stomach in the morning. And one afternoon I was reading about compounds in citrus fruit called flavonoids, and one in particular kept coming up. Hesperidin, found in high amounts in lemons and other citrus. Researchers studying adults with metabolic risk factors gave them a concentrated dose of this citrus compound, and found improvements in how well their blood vessels responded and dilated, along with lower markers of inflammation in the blood compared to a placebo group. It was one study, a modest-sized one, and I'm not going to stand here and tell you a glass of lemon water is going to replicate a clinical trial dose. But it pointed me towards something I'd been missing, that the citrus wasn't just there for flavor. It was doing its own quiet work on the same lining the ginger was helping to protect. That's when the drink stopped being ginger water in my head and became something else entirely, a two-ingredient habit where each one is covering ground the other doesn't. Fresh lemon juice, squeezed into warm water, working on the vessel lining and inflammation side through its citrus flavonoids. Fresh grated ginger stirred in right after, adding its own anti-inflammatory support to the same system. Not a miracle, not an overnight fix. A small, daily nudge toward a body that moves blood the way it's supposed to. I make it most mornings now. Warm water, not boiling, juice from half a lemon, a thumb-sized piece of ginger grated right in, skin and all if it's organic. I drink it before coffee, while the kitchen's still quiet. Some mornings I add a pinch of cinnamon, which has its own reputation for supporting healthy blood sugar, and steady blood sugar matters here too, because when blood sugar runs high for years, it damages that same vessel lining right alongside inflammation. Three things working the same angle, not three separate miracles. Last month, my wife and I walked the whole boardwalk in the evening after dinner. No stopping, no me lagging behind, rubbing my knees. We're already planning a longer trip this fall, the kind of trip I used to quietly worry I wouldn't have the stamina for. I'm not saying a cup of lemon and ginger water did all of that. I'm saying it's part of a routine that, alongside my doctor's guidance, has given me a body I trust again. I think about Arthur, 76, from Savannah, a retired shipyard foreman who wrote in after hearing about this habit from a friend at his church. 40 years around ship metal had left him with hands that ached and went numb in cold weather and legs that felt full of wet sand, in his words, by the end of any long day. He started the lemon and ginger habit the same way I did, skeptical, expecting nothing. 6 weeks in, he told me the thing that struck him most wasn't some dramatic before and after. It was that he stopped noticing his hands at all in the morning. No burning, no stiffness he had to shake out, just hands that worked the way they used to, alongside the medication his cardiologist already had him on, which he never stopped taking. That's the story with every man I've heard from on this. Nobody's throwing away their prescriptions. Nobody's claiming a cure. What they're describing is smaller than that, and more honest. A body that responds a little more like it used to. A morning that starts a little warmer, a little steadier. And if you're on blood pressure medication or anything for your heart, this is exactly the moment I tell you what I tell every man who asks. Talk to your doctor before making this a daily habit, especially about how citrus and ginger might interact with what you're already taking. This drink is something you build alongside your doctor's plan, never instead of it. Your doctor knows your chart. I don't, and neither does anyone else making a video on the internet. Here's what I've come to believe, after years of paying closer attention to my own body than I ever did in my 40s. The fade so many of us chalk up to just getting older is very often just a vessel lining that's been carrying inflammation and stiffness for decades without a single day of support. Nobody warned us. Nobody sat us down. We just watched our hands get colder and our legs get heavier and assumed that was the deal we signed up for by living long enough. It isn't the deal. Not entirely. There's a difference between accepting your age and accepting a decline you never had to accept in the first place. I didn't get my hands, my energy, or my confidence back by chasing a miracle. I got them back by paying attention to what actually supports circulation day after day and giving my body every reasonable advantage alongside the care my doctor already has me under.
The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you.
If any of this sounds like your mornings, the cold hands, the heavy legs, the quiet worry that you're just fading a little more every year, I want you to know that worry doesn't have to be where this ends for you. You still have time to pay attention the way I wish someone had told me to pay attention 20 years earlier. Your body isn't finished with you yet. It's just waiting for you to give it a reason to keep up. Tell me in the comments, have you noticed your hands or feet running colder than they used to, especially in the morning? I read every one of them. And if this is the kind of thing that helps you feel like yourself again, subscribe, because this is exactly what I talk about here. The small, honest things that actually move the needle at our age, without the nonsense.